Hi, it's Cody with AJAX Motorsports, and today I want to show you a few different options for entry-level, mid-level, and then the high-end levels of gear. So the question we get a lot is what should I get when I'm getting into this? And a lot of it depends on your budget, right? So if you've got $1,000 to spend, if you've got $500 to spend, if you've got unlimited budget, we have an option for you. And I'm not saying you have to go new for everything. There are some things that I definitely recommend you go new. For sure, you want to go new with a helmet. Anytime you buy a used helmet, you're taking a risk on what someone else crashed in or potentially crashed in, and you only get one brain, and so I'm going to take that one really seriously. So if I'm going to err on the side of caution, I'm going to err and get a new helmet, and I also like to spend money on boots. Those are my two big things. You got to walk into work, and you got to be able to think when you're working. So starting out here, we have the Liat. This is the Moto 2.5 helmet, and this guy's running a price point right about 160 bucks. So for an adult helmet, this is going to be probably one of my lowest price point helmets. Comparable to this would be also like a Bell MX-9. It's going to be comparable to this. What I do like about this particular helmet, why I picked it to show you guys today, is how lightweight it is. Obviously you can't see that in camera, but this guy right here is lighter than for sure any of my like super high-end helmets. It does have a little bit less material in it, but as far as safety goes, it does have some awesome safety features, and they actually bought some of this stuff over from their mountain bike line. But it's got a 360-degree turbine is what they call it. But it has these little pressure pads inside of here that's going to support or basically touch your head and act as another density of foam. And what that's going to help out with is going to be the directional impact. So if you do smack your head on the ground, you're not going straight to the hard foam that's inside of these helmets. You're going to actually have something in between that, and that's going to help it to shift a little bit on your head. And what we're looking at here is something that's going to disperse that directional energy, right? So if you smack the ground, you're not just smacking, but a lot of times you're turning as well. So it's going to try to make the helmet turn a little bit to basically shift on your head slightly. That way that's not all going straight into your head and straight into your neck. So that one's got that. It's a little bit different system than what we see on some of our other helmets. Those guys are going to have MIPS particularly, but this company has a little bit different design, but it's a pretty cool helmet. And like I said, super lightweight, it's well ventilated, it's a comfortable helmet, and a great price point. Paired up with that, we're going to go with kind of what everybody knows as the entry-level boot. This is going to be the Alpinestar Tech 3. Now, Alpinestar is known for having the Tech 10s. They're the ones that are on most people's feet at the pro level races. You go to a Supercross, that's probably what 99% of the field's going to be wearing. But their entry-level boots can be their Alpinestar Tech 3. Price points around 200 to 250 bucks, depending on what you're looking at. It's going to be kind of some traditional tech, a little bit less expensive on the hardware. So you're going to have more plastics than metals, more synthetic materials here. So not very much leather on these. But if you're looking for something that's going to get you on the track or on the trail at the least expensive possible, this is going to be one of your better boots for sure. Now there's some other stuff that's going to be cheaper. What you kind of have to look out for, and what I've noticed with some of your lower end boots, is they take a little bit longer to break in, and then once they are broken in, they tend to, I'd say, wear out a little bit faster. I think that's just because some of the way the materials are made and some of the placements on it. But they don't offer quite the same protection as some of your higher end boots as far as flex goes. And they tend to be a little bit stiffer and tend to be a little bit less comfortable. But that being said, absolutely nothing wrong with this boot, especially if you're just getting into it. I think this is a great way to start, and this is what I put a lot of people in when they're kind of getting into it. Next, we go into the midline here. This is going to be the, I would say, upper mid-level actually from Troy Lee Designs. This is going to be their SE5. This is their composite helmet. This helmet right here retails from about 550 bucks. I would say a midline helmet's going to be anywhere between $300 to that $550 price point. Is going to be in that midline helmet. So inside of that, you're going to have your Bell Moto 9, of course, a couple different Troy Lees. You're going to have your SE4 is going to be in that as well for several of their models. But quite a few helmets fit into this price point. This is kind of where the market is for a good competitive price point helmet that's going to have got really good safety features on it. It still has the same safety features as your higher end helmets. It's just going to be a little bit heavier because it's not carbon. So that's what you're going to see in your mid-level helmet. It's a comfortable helmet, but when you're picking helmets, one of the more important things, obviously safety is important, but try a bunch of different ones on, see what fits you the best. Obviously we want to go for what's stylish. Troy Lee always has great style, but you're going to want to see what fits your head. Everyone's head's a little bit different, so you want to see what fits. Into that mid-level boot, we have the Liat 5.5. And another boot that fits into this mid-level boot is going to be the Alpine Star Tech 7. It's going to be a good boot that's well known in that midpoint level. These boots are going to range anywhere between, I would say, 360 up to that mid-400s for a mid-level boot. But what I like about this Liat 5.5 is some of the features that it has. The buckles are pretty robust on this one. It has a hinged ankle, which you don't really see much in that price point. And it also has a hyperextension lockout. So that means that if you hyperextend your foot, the boot is going to stop that, so it's not just your ankle popping, right? So I like that, but one of the biggest feedback I get from this one is how comfortable it is. It has quite a bit of padding inside of it versus some of the other boots on the market. So quite a bit of padding inside of there. It makes it comfortable. It really fits a lot like a tennis shoe. But having a hinged ankle system on this one, it's going to flex a little bit better in the places that you need it to flex. And then it's also going to stop when you need it to stop. So what that kind of means as well is that it's going to break in a little bit quicker. It's going to be a little more comfortable to wear. You're going to get better feel of your controls with this mid-level boot. All right, and moving over to our high-end options here, you're going to recognize some of these things because this is some of the stuff that you see on TV. And of course, they're going to put the stuff on TV because that's what they want to sell. That's their high-end stuff, right? And it's high-end price, but it's also high-end components, right? So what you tend to see here is what stuff is going to end up being years to come. So the stuff just trickle down. But what you get here is kind of the best of the best, the leading technology and all that stuff. And so what we have here is particularly in that price point. This particular helmet's about $920. This is the Bell Moto 10 spherical. And what you get with that is, of course, it's their technology, right? It's what you're paying for. You get a really comfortable helmet. You get a pretty lightweight helmet. Something that I like about this particular one, sheet pads are super easy to remove. They're just magnetic, so you can take it out and wash them easier. But also what makes this one special is that spherical system right here, which is going to be a different impact protection system over MIPS, which you see in most of your midline helmets and even some of your high-end helmets as well. But MIPS is basically this hard liner that is inside the helmet that allows it to slip a little bit on your head. So imagine you take a hard impact to the ground. It's going to allow the helmet to shift a little bit, which is going to take away some of that energy, which is key. You got to disperse that energy. So that's what you're going to have in most of your midline helmets and even some of your high-end helmets as well. This particular one does it a little bit differently with different densities of foam, but it's the same concept. They're just trying to disperse that energy. So I would say your high-end helmets is going to be anywhere between that $650 on up. So I'm sure it's going to be not very long before we have $1,000 and more motocross helmets. So probably won't take too long on that. This is going to be your high-end boot option. Of course, you're going to have Gearnet SG12s. Now they have the 22s. Sadie has the Crossfires. All three of these boots are going to be kind of in that high-end option where you're looking in that mid-600s and above, depending on which model, and sometimes they have special editions. But these boots are going to be on a pretty similar playing field as far as protection goes. So they're going to all have a hinge system in the ankle. They're all going to have the nice buckles. They're going to have basically all this company's research and development goes into their high-end boots and then trickles down from there. So if you want the best of the best, it's going to come at a cost. But these are also typically tend to be some of the more comfortable of the mid-level and lower level options, and they also tend to last longer. I know a good set of boots, depending on how much you're riding every year, can last you anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So that's one of those things that maybe you buy a $200 boot versus a $600 boot, but if it lasts you 3 or 4 times as long, you kind of have to weigh that out for you and see what you can afford, right? And in all this is not pressuring you into going into the high-end model. Like, we don't want to sell you something that you can't afford. We want to sell you something that you're happy with and that you can afford. And so we have something that's going to fit in any one of those price ranges. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with going with a set of used boots. Obviously, they're going to have, if someone's selling them used, they probably have a lot of the life taken out of them, and they're probably not going to offer as much protection as a new one. But it's definitely going to be a lot better than a pair of work boots. That being said, I definitely don't ever recommend buying used helmets. You can take your chances with that. I don't recommend it. I don't want to put my head in something that someone else has put a ton of sweat and stuff into, and that's kind of gross. But ultimately, if you crash in a helmet, especially hard, you definitely need to replace it. Some of these foams inside of here, sometimes the foam inside of it will break down over time. It will crack during impacts and things like that. So you need to have your helmet inspected after a big crash. But also the shelf life on a helmet is like 3 to 5 years. So after that time, we do definitely recommend you replace that. I know I see some people out there in 20-year-old helmets. It's just not a good thing. One, the foam's breaking down, but two, the technology just in the past 5 years has just skyrocketed like crazy. So good helmets, good boots, the rest of the stuff we can kind of play around on your budget a little bit. I hope this has been helpful. Come on into AJAX, try on a couple different things, see what fits you, what fits your style, what fits your budget. And we're just happy to help you out in any way we can. But yeah, come on into AJAX, try a few things out.